Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Crypto Hipster Podcast. This is your host, Jamil Hassan, the Crypto Hipster, where I bring you founders, entrepreneurs, executives, thought leaders, you name it, all over the world of crypto and blockchain. And today I have another amazing guest. Looking forward to this interview. It's going to be a good one. I have the founder and CEO of Reveel. His name is Adrien Stern. Adrien, welcome to the show.
Hi, Jamil. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you for being here. It's a pleasure to meet you. And let's kick things off. My first question is this. What is your background? And is it a logical background for what you're doing now?
All right. You know what? It's not necessarily a logical background. I started my career in music, actually. I grew up in Switzerland. I'm half Swiss, half American, and fell in love with reggae music when I was in my early teens and started a reggae band with a bunch of friends. One thing led to another. We started touring first Switzerland and eventually Europe. And so I decided I would study business and take on the management of the band. And basically took the band from a small, local act to an international touring band. We played in some of the biggest festivals in Europe, played in Africa. I got to meet a lot of artists, started producing artists from, Jamaica, UK, etc. And eventually we founded our own record label, which I ran, and a recording studio that is still functional in Switzerland. And so so that's how I built my chops in business in the music entertainment space. Far away from payments. But in my I guess mid late 20s, did a full pivot, moved to New York, got a job in banking, doing digital transformation at BNP Paribas. And from that point on, have been working at the intersection of technology and finance at BNP Paribas, Deloitte Digital Ventures, doing basically building fintech ventures for bigger financial institutions, and now in crypto.
Okay, that's the most illogical thing I've heard. In all my podcasting, you went from being an artist, a creator, to going into finance. Why? Most people do the opposite.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, well, yes, there's obviously a creative side to the music and entertainment industry, but there is a strong like business side to it, right? And I was always very driven by and attracted by that business side. I really enjoyed trying to grow the business of a band, the business of a record label. And so that was something that always, got me excited. On top of that, I did come across some pain points that I was kind of stunned by back then around royalty payments, right? The music industry is notorious for the black boxes that hold royalties and really offer zero transparency around how creators are paid out. And so that was always something that was very frustrating to me. And I guess I'm generally a curious person and like to try out different things. So, when it came time for me to like try to figure what was gonna be next, and my dad was from the US, so I always wanted to come to the US and spend some time here. Came to New York and kind of stumbled across this opportunity at BNP Paribas doing digital transformation. And I had studied business in undergrad, so it wasn't totally foreign to me. I kind of hopped onto that opportunity and then later on was able to sort of connect the dots, right? Like when I did my MBA after having worked at BNP Paribas, I realized I was aware of some really interesting pain points in the media entertainment space around payments. I had worked in banking and in fintech. I had started digging more into blockchain during my MBA, like between 2016 and 2018. And so I actually started a first company that was looking to leverage smart contracts to redistribute music royalties. This was in 2018. It was way too early. But that was sort of me trying to connect the dots between my experience in music, my experience in finance, and then my interest in crypto.
Okay, that makes it making more sense now. So Reveel, I want to find out what Reveel is all about, but then also how you found the transition from rewards. I started in 2017. I was an ICO advisor for a rewards payment program. How you found the transition to doing what you do at Reveel? How did that flow smoothly? And what do you guys do great?
Yeah, for sure. So with Reveal right now, we're really focused on building a unified payment experience on chain, right? And what that really means is how do we make it easy for crypto users to pay each other regardless of what chain they're on or application they're using? And so we're very focused on interoperability of payments. And we've built our own peer-to-peer payments application. And now we're focusing on an infrastructure layer, which we're calling Reveel ID, which will really enable cross-chain payments in a single click, right? So you just tag someone, send them stablecoin, and regardless of what chain they're on, they can receive that balance. And creating that unified payment layer on top of all the different chains. So that's what we're doing today. It is different from what we started with, which was a revenue share protocol. And that was the beginning of Reveal was a bit of a continuation of my beginnings in crypto and that music royalty distribution mechanism we were building. We eventually built the first product Reveal built was a rev share protocol. And we were working with a lot of artists in the music space, as well as any type of other artists that were doing NFT drops and needed to automate the redistribution of revenue to collaborators, right? So we worked with Aluna and Diplo on some drops, NFT drops they did. We worked with Deadmau5 and Pixel Links from Animoca Brands, with Colors Studio and all the NFTs they dropped through Zora. And several great artists in the space, Black Dave, etc. So that was a lot of fun, and we were able to sort of surf that NFT wave. But as you well know, NFT revenue kind of went down the drain. And so we realized we needed to figure out what was going to be next. And one of the things that we had come across working with creators is that a lot of them were looking for solutions to like easily off ramp their earnings to their bank account, or even to do like single, sort of one-time transactions. Maybe it was to pay a designer $200 for work they'd done, or pay an engineer that had done the mix or whatever, sort of those one-off transactions. And so we took those learnings and built, our peer-to-peer payments app, which is, has been live since December now, has been growing really quickly. A couple of weeks back, we announced that we broke 100,000 users, and volume has been, basically 2xing for the past couple months. So getting a lot of traction on that front, and we really sort of took those learnings from the rev share protocol and put them into our payments infrastructure that we're building now.
Very cool. You mentioned nonchalantly 100,000 users, but you went 100,000 users in 6 months, and
Yep.
not a lot of people do that. So, what's your journey on that, and how'd you do it? And I'm kind of like blown away by that fact.
Yeah. No, it's been a wild couple of months, and we're obviously super proud of that growth. If there was a secret sauce, I wouldn't share it. But the reality is it's a combination of a little bit of luck and a lot of preparation, right? I think the things that we did well are the following. We have always been very vocal about the vision of what Reveel is trying to bring to the world, and how we see things. And that is really helpful in terms of building community, right? People eventually, see your tweets, see your posts, and if they believe in that vision, will follow and will join the community. And so we were very vocal about sharing that vision. We aligned with really great partners. We're lucky to have Binance Labs on our cap table, as well as some great investors. Obviously, we worked with some amazing artists, as I mentioned earlier, and so that helped build credibility. And having that credibility is really important, so that when people see that vision that you're putting forward, they're like, okay, well, these guys are serious. They're partnering with some real people here. And then the third part is that we had the right tools in place to capture any type of traction, right? And so we had a gamified like waitlist mechanism. So anyone who liked what we were, putting forward could sign up for our waitlist. That waitlist has a point system in it, and so people could share it with their friends. And as they brought more people into the waitlist, they'd get bumped up. And so we leverage those tools to make sure that our content and our attraction was getting viral, and luckily it did, right? All it took was a few KOLs to see that we were putting something cool out there, that we had serious backers, good partners, and without zero marketing spend, we got a few retweets, and that snowballed, and eventually we captured millions of emails, and we're able to build a real community. Obviously, we're in crypto, there are always lots of bots, but after cleaning out the bots, we built a really solid community of several 100,000 emails, and that's been converting into our socials and into our Discord, and then since we launched the application into our user base. So that's the playbook that we ran. It's not an easy one to execute on, and as I said, there is a little bit of luck in there, but I think with that type of preparation and not being shy to share what you're building, you got to provoke that luck.
I think you provoked the luck with your business acumen and your interest in building a business. So that's good.
That's true. That's true.
Cool. So I want to find out, why, like today, and it's been fragmented. Like I could go on like a Coinbase and I could trade one crypto for another, but it's far cry from the many cryptos that are out there, right? So why should payment, especially payments, right, and cryptos and payments, be on a singular platform, or have people can have access through one singular platform? Why is it important for that to be in place and happen?
Yeah. The way I think about it is, payments is kind of as basic as communication, right? Like you want to be able to call someone, and in the same way, you want to be able to pay someone, right? It's really impractical when you need to switch mediums to reach a person or to be able to pay them, right? And so, in that sense, payments is a very basic sort of need. And that's why I think we're seeing more and more a trend towards open finance, open banking APIs, right? These things are starting to really gain traction. And decentralized finance is part of that, right? The fact that it is decentralized allows for a degree of interoperability that is really interesting. And so I see the need for payments to be connected as quite a fundamental need. And the way it is today is very different from that, right? Like payments are very fragmented. I mean, you could look at different types of silos. You've got geographic silos, right? So, cross-border payments. And that's doable. Obviously, we do a lot of those every day, but it's still very slow. It's still very costly. You got to deal with foreign exchange, etc. So stablecoin is becoming a great solution for that. But now you're talking about on-chain payments. The problem you run with an on-chain payments are that people are on different chains. You've got the Solana maxis and the Polygon fans and the base folks and the Arbitrum people, and right. And so now we're recreating different silos, but these are network, or chain related silos, and bridging funds between these chains is even more complicated than doing a cross-border transaction, right? So in a sense, we've just sort of moved the problem. And then there's a third type of silo, which is at the application layer, and that's a little bit less the case in crypto because of DeFi and that level of interoperability. But in Web 2, those silos are very strong, right? A PayPal user cannot pay a Revolut user, that cannot pay a Nubank user, right? They each have their own centralized payments mechanisms, and basically they lock in users into their own little silos. And so those are the three types of sort of levels of fragmentation I see, right? Cross-border, cross-chain, cross-application. And really our vision is, how do we create a unified payment experience that can be leveraged by any developer on any network to make sure that their users can be connected to anyone anywhere. And so, our tag with Reveel is pay anyone, anywhere, on any chain. And that's really what we're trying to implement.
So I'm interested to see how you get it there. You know, how do you break down those silos? You know, yeah, like
Yeah.
in practice. How can we
Yeah,
do that?
yeah, for sure. I think there are several forces at play, I guess. The very first step for us is demonstrating that there can be value around the Reveal ID and that, omni-chain payment ID that we're building. And so that's why we built our own peer-to-peer payments application. And that peer-to-peer payments app is really the first client, if you will, built on top of our infrastructure layer. And so that's step one for us. Step two is about finding other developers and applications who want to leverage the Reveal ID. And we'll be announcing some of that stuff over the coming months, but we're talking some great players in the crypto space who see a need to facilitate the user experience when it comes to being able to connect folks via payments that might be on different environments. I'll give you a very simple example, but a wallet, that's, let's say, EVM only, right? A user of that wallet that wants to pay someone who only wants to receive stablecoin on Solana, USDC on Solana, for instance, that user has to leave the wallet, use a bridge and use a different wallet on the Solana chain to then pay the user on Solana, right? Because the original wallet is only EVM. With Reveel, if that wallet integrated Reveel, they would only have to tag the recipient, send the funds, and that, bridging of funds happens on the back end. We basically abstract all the chain and wallet and the different steps to delivering those funds. And so the user never leaves the EVM wallet, right? And so that stickiness is very valuable to developers. So that's phase two, right? It's about getting developers to integrate Reveel into the platform. Then phase three is about, sort of surfing the trend of interoperability and the desires of users to have that level of ownership and portability, if you will. And I think that's a developing trend. We see it on the user side. Obviously, adoption of DeFi is growing, and there's a lot of interest there. But we're also seeing it in Web 2. There have been some initial products. I'd say Zelle in the US is a pretty good example of that, right? It's sort of this like account to account transaction, but basically it allows you to connect, a Bank of America account with a Bank of America user with a Chase user, and facilitate those real-time account to account payments. And so we see, with open banking APIs, a growing trend of these bigger players to want to allow that type of interoperability.
Interesting. So I want to talk about your ID then. Your ID should allow, in theory, the ability for everybody to be able on the same page when it comes to decentralization, right? Without you having to do this KYC process because you have the identity, right? So why should we all be on the decentralized platforms, and how can your ID help really, get us to one of the promises of blockchain, which is identity for the unidentified?
Yeah, that's a really good question. You know, the way we have set up the platform now is KYC is only necessary when the user wants to on or off ramp funds, right? And Reveel is a fully non-custodial platform, and we like it that way. We think that's the that's the right approach. Um, the beauty of the technology is that it can really reach a very broad audience. Now, the issue around identity, and KYC, banking the unbanked, or identifying the unidentifiable, as you put it. I think a lot of that does depend on the regulatory landscape you're operating in, and that's a much slower change, right? So I think there's a lot of lobbying that needs to happen from the crypto community, a lot of educating of regulators, in all the jurisdictions, so that we can eventually start using the technology for that. But that is going to take time.
I think so too. I think it'll take time for the regulators to come on board. So
Yeah.
I'm
I
looking
mean,
for.
we're seeing some good progress, right? Like it's slow and it's frustrating that it's that slow. A lot of us who are in the space are, we're builders, we're innovators, we're early adopters, and so we want things to move a lot faster. The reality of these regulators is they usually take a very steady and slow approach, which one could argue has its advantages, I mean, for their role. But it's gonna take time, and it's gonna remain frustrating for a while, I think, for a lot of us. But I'm confident that in the long term, it will go in the right direction. I think Mika in Europe is a step in that direction. Hopefully in the US we get some type of stable coin regulation in place sooner rather than later, and go from there.
Yeah, I hope so. So one thing that we talked about a little bit briefly before the call was, Bitcoin and Ethereum, and there's still a pain point out there for people who traders, especially who want to trade Ethereum for Bitcoin. There's really no easy way to do it without going through a centralized intermediary like a Coinbase or something, or Kraken or some kind of exchange, right? What are the pain points? Why do they still exist? And why hasn't somebody done something yet about it?
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is it's challenging from a technology perspective, right? We're talking about cryptos on different chains, different environments, and creating creating applications that can really handle those types of multi-chain transactions are it's a challenge. It's a technology challenge, right? And so that just takes time. I think we're seeing some pretty good progress around sort of multi-chain accounts, just chain abstraction in general. I think is going to be a big trend in the coming probably months, and sort of the next wave of wallet related products. So I'm quite bullish on just chain abstraction in general. My perspective has always been that blockchain is a back-end technology, right? And it doesn't necessarily need to be in the front end. Like, we have to look at what is the intent of users, And usually their intent is not related to what technology they're using, right? They're just trying to accomplish something. And so how do we facilitate that intent with the best tech and with tech that respects sort of the values that you want, right? Whether that is self-custody, different degrees of decentralization, security, et cetera. So, I think the reality is you're going to end up with a variety of different products. Centralized exchanges are one, and that works well for some. Decentralized chain abstraction accounts is probably going to be sort of another great option. And I think that's fine, right? To each their own, and you pick and choose sort of what degree of ownership and responsibility you want around your assets.
Yeah, I think a front end that's sleek that people like to use, and then a back end that works.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it sounds so easy, right? But obviously, there are a lot of very smart people working on that, and it's challenging. It's we're still in the early innings of this technology, and there's a lot that needs to be built. I mean, the fact that chain abstraction really only started to be spoken about last year is tells you a lot about where the technology is at, right? So we still have a long ways to go, but with Reveel, that's really one of the things that we're focused on, because when it comes to payments, the intent is really simple. Like, I want to send you $50. That's the intent, right? The reality of that transaction, though, is a lot different, right? The way it happens most of the time today is like, oh wait, can I send you USDT? Can I send it to you on BSC? And then you're gonna be like, oh no, man, I really prefer USDC on base or whatever. And I'm like, shit, okay, well, then I have to like go bridge some funds or whatever, swap, and then send that transaction. And then I'm verifying your wallet to make sure it's the right one on the right chain, right? It's still way too complicated, and that's the part that we're focused on with Reveel, right? We think that it should be really as simple as me tagging you at Jamil, sending you $50, and maybe I'm sending you USDT from Polygon, and on the back end you've said, no, I want to receive USDC on base. We bridge it, swap it, deliver it to your preferred wallet on your preferred chain, and that's it. And so it's really about orchestrating that, and that's only possible once you start abstracting chains, wallets, and all of the different steps in between, right? The bridging, the swapping, etc.
And then there are powers that be that don't want people to have final settlement, right? They don't want instant settlement for peer to peer. They want to be able to place their fees, like Visa or MasterCard, on top of our transactions, right? So what's it going to take for them to want to see a decentralized world, or they're always going to fight us on that?
Yeah, that's interesting. Yes, the system in place definitely has a lot of intermediaries that have been making a lot of money on facilitating those steps in between, and payments is a great example of that. But that's true in general for a lot of industries in the U.S. You could talk about insurance as another great example for that. I think that in the payment space, the big players are realizing that the technology, crypto, brings some really great advantages. And it's not for nothing that you're seeing Visa and MasterCard invest in the technology. So I'm pretty bullish on the use case of payments for crypto. I think you could argue stablecoin is perhaps the real first use case after just like alternative assets class for the technology. And obviously, there's some great companies that are really pushing the boundaries further. Circle is doing a great job. Obviously PayPal now with their PYUSD is starting to put some weight behind that. and Coinbase as well. I think we're going to see a lot of movement in the stable coin and in the payment space over the next 2 years.
I think so too. I'm beginning to see a little bit of movement in DeFi. Maybe it's just me, but some DeFi cryptos are inching up this week, and I'm thinking, maybe DeFi summer will finally come, although nobody's recognizing it yet. So
I hope so. I
yeah,
hope so too.
very cool. So I want to thank you very much for your time today. I enjoyed speaking with you. I have one last question.
Go for it.
How can people find out more information about you, about Reveel? How can become customers? How can they do that?
Yeah, then thanks for asking. Yeah, you can check out Reveel at r3vl.xyz. We're on all the socials, r3vl_xyz. To find me, it's my first name and last name at Adrien Stern on Twitter, Farcaster, LinkedIn. And that's Adrien spelled the French way, Adrien Stern. So yeah, feel free to connect. I'm always happy to, to connect with people who are in the space, interested to learn about it or building stuff in this space. Yeah, definitely connect. And Jamil, thanks so much for having me on. Really enjoyed the conversation.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your time today.
Talk soon. See ya.